Hi, my name is Fernando. Today I'm going to be showcasing this project that I did with two friends of mine, Sally and Christian. The idea behind this project is to showcase how we did some of the features. Actually, this project was forked. Yeah, this is the forked. And we have a formal documentation here because this was for one of the lectures. And I want to show you how we did some of the stuff that we did. And so let's start with some context first. To give you some context, I wrote some of this stuff down because this project was about a year ago, and I don't have everything on the top of my head. But we were the last semester of university, and we needed to propose a problem for one of the lectures and give a solution for it. And one of our classmates, his mother, had a occupational healthcare business, right? So when somebody's being hired here in Colombia, you need to do some exams in order to know, in order for an enterprise to know if he's capable to do the job or not. So we got access to that system, and obviously we saw a lot of the flaws, but one of them really stuck with us. Really got our attention, and it was their poor compatibility, meaning the unique way to gather the data. So essentially here in Colombia, every single health company have their own way to gather the data. So that was our initial problem, the initial sketch to where we wanted to get our problem. We started with a phase of exploration, and our teacher advised us to learn a bit about FHIR. Apparently, he was involved with different companies that use this standard. We didn't know that much about FHIR and HL7, other than it is a medical standard in Colombia, and Colombia seems to be having different conversation about it. So we had to read a lot of documentation about this new standard. Now, if you're not familiarized what HL7 and FHIR is, let me show you real quick. 7. So as you can see here, it stands for Fast Healthcare Interoperability Resources, which is essentially a standard that allows to exchange health information between systems. So that was um, our goal. Now, to be more specific about it, we were using the version 4, the F4 specification, and this was because this is the one that is used for from the cloud services. So for instance, Google, GCP, AWS, and Azure, they use this version, the release 4 of the standard. Okay, so what's the most important thing to know about FHIR? As we can see here, they define it as is a standard for healthcare data exchange published by HL7. So it is a set of rules of how to structure the information, and how that information is structured. We can find it here in resources. All right, so we have here all the different entities, let's say, about how to store the information of. We can take a look at patient, for example. And if we go down here, well, we have a description, and if we go down here, we can put it on JSON or different formats. And as you can see here, we have all of the attributes and the types of each attribute. Now, I don't want to get too much into detail about data types, but as you can see here, we have different attributes with different custom types. And just to take an example, active, it is a Boolean, which is just a primitive, right? But we have, for instance, marital status, which is from an object type codable concept. So what is a codable concept? If you go here, then you go that they have other attributes, and they can have another custom attribute within the attribute. So we go here, coding, and coding is a bunch of different stuff as well. So we were using SOD, and we actually map all of this stuff. As I said, this was just a lot of, if you go here to types within the project, you can see a lot of these different types that we built, and this was a lot of pain. I don't know, I don't want to get too much into detail, but this actually helped us a lot in order to get good interoperability, which is one of our goals for the project. Now, as I said, I don't want to get too much detail on this, but if this could be a good library, so if somebody wants to work on this was the reference that we use for data types. And here you have all of the way that the data are connected between each other. And just for instance, we have here map the primitives, let's say, and different ones. So if you want to do live review about this, it would be a good idea, because there's nothing at the time that when we did this, there's nothing to map all of the types to get them in SOD, and then you should be able to use it in different parts of your application, like a form. Okay, so now that we know what FHIR is, which is a set of rules to how to persist medical data, um, how do we make that a company can gather information however they want, but at the same time, underneath that, we are preserving the standard. So that way they can communicate with any other clinic and exchange data easily between them. So when I say this, the first thing that it comes to mind is it possible? So if you have a set of rules, specific rules about how to save your information, is it possible then to gather or take the information however you want? And the answer is yes. So what we found looking at the documentation was just there is one resource called Questionnaires. If you take a look here, say questionnaire here research questionnaire. And if you can see what the definition of a questionnaire is a structured set of questions intended to guide the collection of answers from end users. Questionnaire provide detailed control over order, presentation, physiology, and grouping to allow coherent, consistent data collection. So we have a set of rules also to how to gather the data. Right, so let's take a look at the app. We first encounter here authentication system. We can log in through credentials or Google. I think Google is easier. We select an account. We're gonna have this warning screen because we're working with hail data. So, but we know that the app is completely secure. Then we go continue, and then we go to a small dashboard that we built. Now for the demo of the lecture, we actually set up a complete workflow, meaning we could have patients, we could have an encounter, we have questionnaires for that encounter. So when I said the complete workflow is that we can have an appointment, we can set up an encounter, we can assign to that encounter a patient, so on and so forth. But we want just to take a look at the main feature, which is questionnaires, and how we gather the data in a way that the standards is preserved. And yeah, all right. So for instance, if we go to patient, we have a list here of all the patients that we have created. We have a brief description of name, last name, the phone, the gender, birthday. We can delete. We can also see the preview, meaning all of the information in a different type of format. So for a patient. So let's try to create a patient, for instance. So we have here all of these fields, and we can take a photo of the patient. We have here, I already filled this by default. We can select an organization or whatever, and then we hit the submit button, and a patient was created. Sorry about the camera. Now let me show you how we persist this patient actually. So if we go here to the visualizer that we have on Google Cloud. On GCP, we're going to take a look at how a patient is persisted. Let me show you. Patient. And we see here, we have all of the information that we took from the patient within the form. So, and this is compliant with the standard that we were talking about. You can see here. Now we're gonna take a look what questionnaires are and what they're really cool and what's the feature that I want to main focus on. So right now, when you go to any clinic, right? And you have a form to gather some kind of information. So for instance, here it is very common to do a physical exam to patients in occupational healthcare in an occupational healthcare business. So you have here different type of information that you need to gather from a patient. Now, anytime a clinic or any system needs a new form or new information, or they need something new, they have to contact the engineer and they have to make him do the changes and everything. So in this system, so you can actually create your own forms dynamically, and you have a set of different fields, and what I'm going to show you in a moment about how to create a questionnaire. So that's really cool. But at the same time, since we're creating a questionnaire, which is a resource from the standard, it's going to be persistent within GCP and is compliant with the standard. So we can create any form of any type we want, right? In any order that we want also, and it is persisted with the rules. All right, so let's take a look how we create a questionnaire, for instance. So we go here, create a questionnaire. We set up a title. Let's say I'm gonna put test, put something. We set up the status, if it's active, whatever. I wanna subject type, let's say it's for a patient. And then here is where we can select what type of field we are creating. And we have a bunch of different types. We have here all of the different types that we should be able to support. I'm not sure if we implemented every single one, but for instance, a string is just a set of text. So let's say we want to take the name. We can be adding all of the different types that we want to. Let's say we want a choice, so we go here and then we go to this is a choice. We can set up put it here A, so this is option one. All of this is done with React Hood Forms, which is another thing that we haven't talked about, but let's zoom in. So we created a questionnaire successfully. And then we would take a look at the questionnaire, how it looks. We can see that it has name and a field called choice. And that's how we essentially build all of the different questionnaires. So if you can set up however you want to do them. And if you take a look, they actually look nice. So they don't look ugly or anything. And yeah, this is an example of a questionnaire with different type of fields. Now again, we can use fill the information however we want, right? And it should be persisted. Okay, we need it here, and it will be persisted on GCP, just like the patient here. So if we go to questionnaire, if we go to questionnaire first, we created a questionnaire recently called test, which is right here, right? Option, you have name, string, option one, option two, correct? So that's how we're saving the questionnaire. And also we are saving the response. So we submitted the questionnaire that we just recently submitted is over here. So we're gathering and we're saving the responses also. So we have an item and we say tabagism, and then we have the answer that we took, right? So we're saving the questionnaire and we're saving the response for that questionnaire. So how we did this, how we were able to create a questionnaire, then render that questionnaire, save the questionnaire, and save the response for that questionnaire. There are a lot of different challenges that we can see just by looking at the implementation, but I'm going to show you the different challenges that we face during this implementation and how we were able to solve it. Now, the way that we handled this problem was to separate the problem into main parts. So the first one is how to create the questionnaire. So that part, a friend of mine, my classmate, took that with the chest. So when we create a questionnaire, so essentially we need to create a form, being able to create multiple forms. Okay, so he took charge of that. But once the questionnaire is created, the JSON of the questionnaire, and that's my input. So I need to render that questionnaire and create a questionnaire response in order for me to submit the questionnaire and persist the information. So how did I render the questionnaire and create a form that it should be able to work essentially? Now, if we take a look here, the research questionnaire, right? We go down here and we can check all of the different attributes on all of the things that a questionnaire, which is my input, should have. So the R type signal here are the attributes that are required. They are mandatory. All of the questionnaires should have this. And then we have the main important component, which is this item. So each item is a type of field. So it could be, if we go here to type, what type would be an item? Uh, we go to type real quick. Actually, let me show you here better. Yeah, we have here all of the different um, fields that a questionnaire could have. So we could have a field that could be, as I showed earlier, it could be a text, it could be an integer, it could be an attachment, it could be a choice, and all of this list, right? So whenever I found in the questionnaire resource, I found a string, I need to draw or render a string field. We're using React with forms, so I'm going to show you how we did that with React with forms, which is um, another um, good thing that we have, the fact that we're using that library, which makes everything faster. So, but the main issue, as you can see here, is that this is recursive. So an item could have another item. So we could have infinite items inside an item. Now let's take a look at how the questionnaire input looks like. And as I showed you before, this is a type of a questionnaire, the status draft, patient, and then we have here uh, a field choice, for instance. I show you how it looked before, and this is how they look in the JSON. So we have here there is a type choice. This is an item, right? Which is the first object is of type choice. Therefore, we need to have this field called answer option where we have different options. So we can have uh, cellular, we can have the passport. These are the different choices, right? But when we have we have other type of fields. As I said before, this is an integer, this is a string, this is another choice for the sex, this is a male, female, but this is a date. But when we have a choice, sorry, when we have a group, so when we have a group, it means that we have a group of items. Remember that each item is a question. So a group means a set of questions that are related one to each other, right? So if we go here to item and then we go to the types, you can see that here that a group is an item with no direct answer, but should have at least one child item because, as I said, multiple items that are related somehow between each other. Now let's take a look at the app. We have here all of the folder. This is the source folder. The app is where all the routes are. This is an XJS application. But here on features, we have all of the different features that we built for the application. So we have here the two main ones that I was talking about, the questionnaire creator and the questionnaires. So this was the one that my friend did. As you can remember, when we create a questionnaire, the form that create questionnaires, that creates a JSON, which is the questionnaire resource. Then in this feature called questionnaires, that's another form that is that just render the questionnaire that was just created. And that questionnaire creates a different JSON, which is the questionnaire response, where we persist all of the response from the questionnaire. So if we go to questionnaires, we have here the components, and the main one is this one, questionnaire response form. Now, if you have worked with ShadCN and React with forms, this is gonna look like really normal to you. So the first thing that we have to receive as an input, obviously, is a questionnaire. So this is the JSON that we're gonna render. Now, in React with forms, you initially use form, then you initialize it, the schema that we're using, right? Then we have here the default values for the questionnaire response. We're gonna skip the submit for instance for a moment. And then this is the main part. This is the function where we render the questionnaire response. So as I said, what we have to do is we loop through the items, which is all of the different fields that a questionnaire could have. And depending what type of field is, it could be a string, we render a string field. We have to pass the control because as I said, this is React with forms. If it's a integer, we render an integer field. If it's the choice, we render a choice field, Boolean. These are all of the different fields that we support. And then if we have group, correct, we need to call the function again, render questionnaire response, right? Because it is recursive. So once we have a group, I draw a field set because we got a field set. I can put a name, a title, and showing what they are related for. and then we can proceed to again loop through all of the fields. So let's say we have an item, sorry, we have a group with two strings. So it will go here, and then we go here to render a string field, and then go to the next string field, and that's how essentially works. All right, that was an overview about the project. That will be it. If you want to know something else about me or about the project, you can text me. I want to let my email on the below this video. And I feel like the dumbest guy because I didn't realize the microphone changed at the middle of the recording. But that's pretty much it. I skip a lot of things, and still the video is about 20 minutes long. So there's more. There was a lot of more headaches about this project. I just tried to summarize everything really quickly, so I skip a bunch of details. And but again, I hope you like it, and leave a like and a comment if you want to. Okay, have a nice day, everybody.